Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to be your guide as we unpack a truly fascinating, deeply esoteric piece of work today. We're going to be looking at The Rider on the White Horse, a really ambitious text written by Grattan and published by Light Technology Publishing way back in 1990. Now, just to be perfectly clear right out of the gate, we are talking about the late 20th century New Age metaphysical book here, okay? Not the classic German novella by Theodor Storm that happens to share the exact same title. Grattan's work is a completely different journey. It's this wild blend of autobiography, soul psychology, and channeled wisdom that completely reframes how we look at human existence.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to ask yourself a question. What if you were more than just your current personality? Seriously, take a second and imagine an identity that spans far, far beyond your current physical body, your name, your childhood, or even your religion. Because that right there, that is the core premise of Grattan's entire book. The text suggests that we aren't just these fallen sinners sitting around waiting to be saved by some outside authority. Not at all. Instead, it presents us as multidimensional beings, essentially learning how to awaken to, integrate, and actually embody divine consciousness. In this view, your current personality? It's literally just the tip of a very, very large iceberg. To logically unpack these pretty dense, esoteric concepts, we're going to start with a relatable human story and zoom all the way out to cosmic evolution. Here's our roadmap. 1. A childhood spiritual rebellion. 2. Decoding the white horse. 3. Redefining the human soul. 4. Channeling and inner authority. And finally, 5. The planetary ascension shift. All right, let's get started.
Section 1. A childhood spiritual rebellion. This autobiographical beginning of the book is kind of affectionately known as The Life of Brian. So the book opens with Grattan sharing his deep childhood confusion over traditional Sunday school dogma. He remembers going through the motions, saying the prayers, but feeling just completely unsatisfied by these second-hand explanations of God, death, and the soul. And here's where it gets really interesting. He claims that, as a young boy, he had these suppressed inner memories of actually being there with Jesus. Specifically, he remembered himself as the Apostle Simon, called Peter. And, well, as you can probably guess, when young Brian told his mother about this, she was terrified. She completely dismissed it as mere imagination and strictly warned him against having thoughts like that.
That early interaction perfectly highlights a core conflict established right at the beginning of the text: external dogma versus inner knowing. Grattan's childhood story represents how a child's inherent, natural inner knowing gets crushed by the rigid, fear-based constraints of conventional belief. According to the text, we don't lose contact with our soul because it goes somewhere else. We lose it because our family, our religion, and our culture basically teach us to distrust it. So this awakening process Grattan is talking about, it isn't about acquiring something brand new from the outside. It's about digging up and recovering what was always there, but just buried.
Let's move right along to Section 2, Decoding the White Horse.
Now, you might recognize the rider on the white horse. It's classic Christian apocalyptic imagery, usually tied to divine victory and judgment. But Grattan completely flips this symbol on its head. In his esoteric context, the white horse represents pure spiritual movement, power, and revelation. The rider isn't a literal warrior fighting some physical battle at the end of the world. Instead, it's a powerful symbol of the awakened soul emerging through the old world of dogma into a totally new era of direct spiritual realization. It's basically a metaphor for breaking free.
And Chapter 1 goes on to place Grattan's work within a very ancient spiritual lineage. He argues that these spiritual impulses recur throughout history. For instance, he points to Melchizedek, representing a priesthood that exists way beyond ordinary institutions, Zoroaster, who brings in cosmic duality, and King Akhenaten, representing solar monotheism and divine light. By connecting these figures, the text is essentially arguing that spiritual truth isn't owned by any one religion. It's a recurring divine impulse popping up across different cultures and different ages.
All right, Section 3, Redefining the Human Soul. This is where we get into some of the most challenging and fascinating concepts in the book.
Grattan completely challenges the way most of us think about past lives. Usually, we imagine a linear model of reincarnation, right? One life happens, then another, sequentially, kind of like beads on a string. But the text proposes a model of simultaneous reincarnation. It suggests you have this decentralized soul that is focusing itself into multiple different lifetimes all at the exact same time, within a much greater now. Think of it like a giant intelligence gathering nectar or data simultaneously across many different expressions of itself. Which leads us to this crucial takeaway. The personality lives through events,
but the soul extracts meaning. Under this framework, your current personality is completely temporary. Sure, it thinks it's the absolute center of the universe, but really it's just out there on the front lines gathering experience. The deeper intelligence of your eternal soul is the thing actually extracting the wisdom. It's a comforting thought, honestly, because it suggests that no experience, no pain, and no confusion is ever wasted. The soul is converting all of it into wisdom.
Moving into Section 4, Channeling and Inner Authority. How exactly is Grattan getting all this information?
Well, the book places itself squarely within the New Age channeling tradition. This is when the human personality basically acts as a receiver or translator for wisdom coming from subtler planes of existence. Grattan actually frames a lot of this book not as his own personal opinion, but as direct metaphysical instruction received from entities. You have beings like Viwamus, who was famously channeled by Janet McClure, as well as entities like Fopengenus/Sonar, and even Grattan's very own higher self. So whether you read that literally or symbolically, the purpose is to bypass standard religious doctrine and tap into a direct line of cosmic communication.
And what are these entities teaching? A huge part of the channeled material focuses on clearing out the old models. We're talking about fear-based religion, guilt, separation from God, and unworthiness. The text strongly argues that to wake up, we absolutely must clear these inherited cultural programs out of our system. Unworthiness in particular gets singled out. It's described as this massive, dense veil that actively blocks you from accepting your own divine identity.
And the text just hammers this point home with an incredibly empowering message. The soul does not need to earn its connection to God. It needs to remember it. I love that. The book strongly critiques those traditional paradigms that constantly tell you you're not good enough. Instead, it advocates for taking all that spiritual authority away from external institutions, masters, or saviors, and handing it right back to you, the individual. A teacher can point the way, sure, but your soul has to wake up from within itself.
Okay, let's zoom way out for our final section. Section 5. The Planetary Ascension Shift.
So here, Grattan expands the narrative far beyond just you and me. The book starts bringing in concepts like Atlantis, which often acts as a symbol for ancient knowledge and unresolved collective baggage, and the Diva Kingdom. The Diva Kingdom refers to the spiritual intelligence behind nature, the elementals, and the living forces of the earth itself. Grattan posits that our personal human awakening is intrinsically tied to the Earth's own dimensional shift. We are essentially framed as planetary bridges, helping to anchor higher consciousness right here into physical life.
And this brings us to a beautiful concept the text calls the coming of age of humanity. It portrays humanity as going through this massive collective planetary initiation. We are outgrowing our spiritual childhood, which is that era of depending on external authority and fear-based theology, and we're finally stepping into spiritual maturity. And that maturity is defined by having a direct, unmediated relationship with Source.
Now, what's absolutely vital to note here is that Grattan didn't write this to just be some passive theoretical textbook. He actually includes an appendix toolkit full of practical exercises. We're talking work with the 12 rays, chakra initiations, practicing soul-to-soul communication, and meeting your spiritual teacher inwardly. The message is super clear. Don't just read about this stuff, do it. The ultimate goal here isn't to escape the physical world, it's to literally embody divine light right here in physical matter.
Which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative question to think about. Are you simply a personality reading a book, or are you a multidimensional soul finally remembering who you are? While Grattan's work insists it is definitely the latter. It's a really powerful call to reclaim your inner knowing, drop the fear, and step into the spiritual evolution of the planet. I really hope this explainer sparks some deep curiosity for you today. Thank you so much for hanging out and exploring this with me. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.